Well, let's go into game 2 and see what happens here. Will Morrigan go back in the jungle again? I mean, she won the last game, even though it didn't look like it on paper. If you look at the stat line, still won.
I wouldn't be surprised if Allegiance still elect for the Morrigan, but this time around, their first pick, they're not second pick. So if they pick it this early, they're not going to have the necessarily flex pick that they want, or at least the counter pick for the last pick of the soul lane matchup.
Is there reason to pick it that early, though? Not enough teams are really showing Morrigan off to warrant picking it so early.
Honestly, between Weekend and CycloneSpin, they don't really care about what other teams play. Whatever works for them, they're going to continue to run at their leisure, and they're going to first pick it.
I think it's flexible.
They're going to make their own meta. They don't, just like Eager makes their own kind of style and what works for them, this is what Allegiance do. Weekend and CycloneSpin can both play this god, and whatever matchup they feel more comfortable with, that's where the Morrigan will go.
Well, Zeus gets through the batting phase here. We've not seen much Zeus today so far, but very instrumental in the mid game. All game, let's be honest, that ultimate does so much damage, and that's all you bring Zeus for is raw DPS.
It's going to be more difficult for the Morrigan to position herself in the jungle if Zeus is around the corner between the Chain Lightning, the Lightning Storm as well. A lot of ultimates, or AoE ultimates here as well from Allegiance between this Cupid and Bacchus.
Rough situation to be in if you're Zeus up against a Bacchus. Bacchus is one of the best supports to get into that Zeus in the back line. However hard you want to try and go aggressive on him, it also stops you getting your detonate off a lot of the time too, which is a kill securer.
SoaR Gaming having a little bit of objective control here with this Fafnir having the coerce for the attack speed modifier. Not really having their Hunter quite dedicated yet to be able to see what will work with that, but either way, around the Gold Feeder and the Fire Giant side, having Fafnir and Zeus is what you really want to be able to control a lot of space, especially when you're dealing with Cupid and Bacchus.
Well, they both expect, so I seem to expect for sure that Allegiance are putting Morrigan in the jungle again because they just banned Raw and Agony from the mid lane. They may want to try and push Morrigan into the mid lane if they can by like, well, your options are limited now if we can make that happen. But they've got a very tanky lineup here with the Terra and Fafnir, and combine that with an Artemis and Zeus. I'm expecting that last pick is probably going to be something along the same sort of lines, a Warrior or a Guardian, to allow to be even bigger on the front line.
Especially when you look at Artemis that doesn't have a natural escape. Same thing goes with Zeus. You need more protections and peels than anything else. You already have the damage that you need on those two characters in the late game. So the question is, how are you going to protect these gods and get to that point in the game?
Well, it's double Guardian versus double Hunter, and a Thanatos is the final pick here for SoaR Gaming. The one problem I see with picking a Thanatos when there's a Morrigan on the enemy team is you're giving the other team an execute as well.
Yes, that could be problematic for SoaR Gaming. We'll see if that is going to be a factor, but either way, I like this idea because there's going to be a lot of damage from Zeus and Artemis. A lot of players are going to be controlled by both the Terra and the Fafnir, so this could be potential execute here for Homiefe.
Well, let's go into game and see how this one plays out. Allegiance won game 1, SoaR did pretty well for themselves too, but not good enough to find the win. And I will say, I think a lot of pressure comes onto Weekend's play of Morrigan this game, because his selection of who he will become with this Morrigan as the game goes on is going to be instrumental. Does he go for Zeus for the long-range AoE damage? Does he go for Artemis for the control and the crits as the game goes on? Or does he look to take Homiefe's Thanatos and do the dunk-in that we've seen him do before?
This is why Allegiance likes the Morrigan so much, because the possibilities are just almost endless for Weekend deciding where he wants to go. And this time it's going to be CycloneSpin playing that Nike in the soul lane, fineokay playing that Guardian, not really going to be able to stun out CycloneSpin very easily.
I never expected.
It takes a while.
Never expected. Oh, that double ricochet was huge. Yankee once again. He was a pool player once upon a time, I tell you that. Said it before and I'll say it again. First blood the way of Metyankey. Homiefe, what are you smoking?
And PBM right around the corner just in case that kill was going to be able to get dropped. But either way, first blood for Allegiance, very strong, very quickly, no hesitation, immediately to this red buff.
And that's a big boom for Allegiance too, because SoaR's early game isn't the greatest. They rely a lot on that Homiefe early. The Thanatos is where the early game comes from this composition. And without that, that's awkward.
This is not a god that he wants to be behind at any point in the game. Thanatos needs to rely on Snowball just to be able to find the kills because of his levels. The more you level up your depth scythe, the more damage it's going to do, obviously. So if you're going to have a lesser level depth scythe compared to Weekend playing this Morrigan, you're not going to be able to match her damage.
You know what, Totally, though? I think Allegiance missed a big window there after that first blood. They went and invaded the red buff on the left-hand side of SoaR. They should have gone speed side to take away Homie's speed, deny him that experience on the right-hand side, as well as for Terra as well. It was a better opportunity for them, and that's a window missed.
Playing devil's advocate, though, they got without the red buff for the first-blooded Metyankey, he has the gold necessary, and with this little bit of a power spike, as long as he can connect onto these ricochets, they're going to hit a little bit harder on the double taps, potentially even the triple bounce, and we could even see more plays off of that alone.
I will say there's a big 3-circle ultimate that could come into play. The good news is, though, they are being able to aggress on this left-hand side now, so looking to pressure CycloneSpin on this Nike. In the early game, she doesn't have that shield, and one thing that Nike struggles against as well is the execute, because the shield does not prevent you from dying to being low health.
No, definitely not going to be a problem here, though. Homiefe having the speed buff, still staying relatively relevant this quickly in the game, having a lot of player damage with just a couple of death scythe thus far.
I mean, that's Thanatos, though, right?
Yes, it is Thanatos as well, but at the same time, Homiefe is not known necessarily to sit in that soul lane very long, and it's not a bad idea, especially considering that CycloneSpin was being quite a nuisance with that Osiris that last game.
Well, both teams being a nuisance around these oracles right now, and SoaR stripped both of them away. Yankee got a nice double tap ricochet, but it wasn't good enough. Now he's going to get pressured by Homiefe. I'm coming back to mid, but he gets a double ricochet again. Leapt on his head again, forcing the ult out of ManRay, and ManRay gets flopped, and as Weekend comes around the corner, ManRay's got no escape now as well. The decision making from SoaR there was awkward, and it actually sets them up for Yankee to pick up another kill as well.
Metyankey doing so much work
his whole
here.
man.
So much damage as well, able to find another great double
Why is he a
bounce.
mid laner when he can play Ho-Yi like that? Like, come on.
He can still play Hu-Yi in the mid lane, just look at him go.
I know, but then if you go mid with him, you're just going to ban Ho-Yi against him every game. His Ho-Yi is probably one of the best Ho-Yis I've seen. He hits more ricochets than I've ever seen. And I'm not talking about singular hits with a ricochet, because herp derp, a line skill shot, but the double and triple bounces, he gets more often than most.
Especially with the geometry of the map, it's not very linear, so you're not able to align it like a pool table necessarily. You kind of have to like bounce it off of like an awkward rock. You're bouncing a rock off of another rock.
And you've got to be aware, when players know how to play Ho-Yi at the right level, of finding these bank shots all the time, you have to watch where you're going to position, because that's twice now Homiefe has walked against a wall and met his maker because of it.
These small skirmishes around the jungle corridors is not something you want to be facing against a Ho-Yi specifically, so taking another spill is Homiefe now with 2 deaths, but still not behind too much in terms of experience, though. Still on par with Weekend.
Allegiance were looking for the speed buff, but they were a little bit too early for it. fineokay's in an awkward spot now, flopped on, and he's not got any walls up to stop him from getting knocked up. One hit is fineokay. Yankee needs to find it. Cyclone will just clean it up with the ult defensively. As the sun's rained down from Yankee in celebration, now they turn their attention to the speed.
Allegiance having 4 kills. They're able to continue their aggression onto the speed buff. Nice intoxicate from PBM. Another stun, but it's going to get negated by the beats. Homiefe going into the sky. PBM using Meditate to prevent himself from being executed. Not committing to that is Homiefe. Very smart play.
If the execute was still in range there, Tolly would have gone for it, but he would have had to land and scythe to get the kill. And there was always a chance of a turnaround, especially when the mark of the crow was on him from Ho-Yi as well. Guaranteed ricochet stun.
Absolutely. Without that execute, giving him the health back, reducing the cooldowns, and this is what makes support a great play here from PBM specifically. Basically deciding between Shell and the Meditate here is something that you need to be able to decide on the fly. Basically, during the loading screen, look at the God Pool, you'd be like, okay, what kind of relics do I need to go
This is
here?
a good start from Allegiance, though. Look at how low Homiefe is. He just kept trying to hang around. Obviously, with a Death Scythe, you think you can get yourself back into it, Tolly, but sometimes you bite off more than you can chew.
He timed the Death Scythe just a little bit too late there. He got it off, but while it was still in the air, CycloneSpin found the kill, so there was no health comeback here for Homiefe.
And the one thing that you found with Thanatos as the season progressed last year, and we saw Thanatos get played a lot as time went on, was that as he got to late game, that execute threshold, people started to realize it does increase. It does become more useful as the time goes on to bring down healthier targets. And keeping him pinned back in the early stages does allow you to not have to worry about that so much in the mid game.
That's true, but on the flip side, Weekend is going to be increasing those levels. So as long as he gets that level lead, he'll be able to get those execute at a higher level as well. So this is not an option that's going to be missed here by Allegiance. And knowing Weekend, he loves playing Thanatos.
I am a little bit concerned for Allegiance, though. Even though the start is amazing, they've got a monster lead right now. If it goes to mid to late game here, Tolly, the problem I can see is that they lack a little bit bit of backline defense here. They're defensive, they're supportive options. Nike and Bacchus both want to go aggressive. They both want to initiate fights, but neither of them are very, very good at defensive options of keeping their carries alive.
Well, currently with a 2-level lead for CycloneSpin, this is not a bad idea for him to kind of snowball that lane a little bit harder to be able to constantly look for these invades on the speed and in the blue. And by invading the speed and the blue, now with a 3-level lead, you're also shutting down Homiefe in the process. And if this Thanatos is shut down, then by proxy, your backline should be protected because he's not going to have the levels or the damage.
Very, very good point indeed. For now, 5-0 Allegiance are up. The God Fury is available to be looked at right now. Allegiance have power plays at the moment, and they're actually looking for one onto Vetium, but the ball comes out, and a nice flop from Mike there very, very quickly. Sadly enough, though, Oceans eats the bear, and in the skies, Homiefe, hovering death is being looked at. Here it comes, straight down, boom! Fields of Love won't keep him alive long enough. The beach from Homiefe will avoid the stun too, or at least the mess of falling up, but we can wrap in round in stealth. Looks for Homiefe. Great med from Jigz, tops him up, but Metyankey from the back on the Hoyi. Double tap again!
He's going to be in the execute threshold, but doesn't matter. The Suns is there. Weekend coming from the sky as the Thanatos. ManRay in a lot of trouble. CycloneSpin has made his presence known, diving into the backline. Still chasing down the chain lightning. Not available quite yet, but Metyankey off the mark, and CycloneSpin bit off more than he can chew.
Greed from Allegiance comes back to haunt them there in the end. If you saw what happened when they just continued to dive in there, totally, they wanted to make it even more. Obviously, they were 5-0 up there, 6-2. It's kind of an opportunity for SoaR there just to get a couple of kills on the board. More importantly, get Vetium one.
Not able to find any sort of action, though. But either way, though, Allegiance, they lost 2 members. Oceans and CycloneSpin taking a spill. Homiefe was traded out in return. That's not a bad thing necessarily if it's a 2-for-1 because of who died. Homiefe constantly getting destroyed here means great things for Allegiance. If there's any one person you want to shut down, there's 2 people. There's one is the jungler because he controls the pace of the game in the early stages, and then the mid game, you're looking at the hunter, and I'm gonna correct myself. There's gonna be a third one. It's gonna be the mage for the late game.
Now I want to tell you about one thing in that team fight that we saw is Metyankey drop the ultimate onto Homiefe to kill him with the Suns, but at the same time, Weekend was in the sky on Thanatos. Would we have liked to see Thanatos get that kill? Well, we can get that kill with the Thanatos ultimate.
Yes, so he would be able to find the execute, and then on top of that, he'd be able to find a death scythe, and then later on, you can use those Suns for a more important team fight or a more important objective.
I tell you what, reliability from Metyankey there. He dropped the Suns expecting Mike's flop to find a target then. Unfortunately, just a little bit too quick is our boy Thanatos right now. Only level 8 in the game, 6-2, 9 minutes in. God Fury will still stay standing.
Still with a huge level advantage is CycloneSpin finishing off this hardwood amulet. This is something that he's been doing quite often here in the soul lane against the Guardians. He recognizes that he's going to be able to have sustain anyway with a health chalice with his second ability giving him HP 5, so he might as well get the MP5 from the hardwood amulet, and now this means that PBM doesn't have to invest into this item.
Now it's not just CycloneSpin, we've seen people do this on Tolia. A lot more of the solo laners have started to go towards hardwood amulet. Is it also because of the mana regen that they're getting from this too, because they're worried about buff invades? Is that one of the reasons we see this coming to dominate?
Yeah, because obviously you have the sustain between the health chalice and your second ability is Nike, so you're having this 20 MP5 aura as well as a 20 magical protection aura, and it's a relatively cheap item anyway. It's 2,100 gold.
But it is taking it away from the support, and will we see supports go elsewhere now with Thebes
yes,
maybe?
Thebes is another option. This is why you want to diversify your builds here. As long as they're together here between PBM and CycloneSpin, they can basically synergize their auras together.
Tried to defend purple buff, instead he's in an awkward spot, meditated early. The ult is being harbored on by Homiefe. Didn't find the executors. ManRay already cleaned it up. Homie didn't want to go any more aggressive there. Instead he'll fall back to the safety of his team. ManRay's doing good work with that Zeus though to zone him away with the shield, get the chain lane bounces off. They don't steal the red though, but they'll get a purple and PolarBearMike's life.
Clean pick there, but I'm still relatively surprised Homiefe just doesn't land on Oceans. The ultimate was used. The Fields of Love was not available for him.
At least get beads, right?
At least get the beads, get something. Get him to dash away from the action. Then maybe the zoning from Jigz would have been a little bit more beneficial.
CycloneSpin in mid lane, trying to go aggressive a little bit onto ManRay there, whose position is quite good. fineokay turns up to the fight. Chain line in, lands onto Cyclone. One stack at him for now. Won't be enough to force Cyclone into an awkward spot. But once again, it's the tale of these two teams, just a little bit of uncoordination both times.
just trying to see what they can get. Not really electing to push their luck with the Gold Fury quite yet. Instead of taking that big risky objective, going for the more guaranteed ones on the side of the buffs, which do add up in the long run because you're getting about, depending on how many people are next to you when you get that buff, you're stripping away at least 100 guaranteed gold on the enemy.
And this matchup that you can see in the solo lane there, fineokay versus CycloneSpin, Nike versus Terra. As the game goes on, they're both doing the same sort of thing. One with their ultimate will give them mobility. The other one will give them mobility throughout the game as the time goes on. They both provide the same sort of thing for their team.
Absolutely, but it's not as much mobility on the form of Terra because the Nike passive gives you about 2% mobility per stack of that passive. So definitely going to favor fineokay during the Terra's blessing. But overall, throughout the length of the game, CycloneSpin definitely has the edge.
Allegiance have the edge around the Gold Fury. Now the Oracle's just spawned too, which should be an indicator that there might not be a ward down from SoaR. There is though, because you can see Jigz is one just standing there right now. Cyclone on zone duty, free for Allegiance there. SoaR just back to the wrong time, and people did not recognize the issue.
SoaR did not have the vision necessary to really deal with that. There was one ward under the Gold Fury, but not responded in time quite yet.
Metyankey in trouble. Into the sky goes Homiefe very early. The meditation obviously dropped there defensively by Allegiance to make sure Metyankey was topped up, forcing Homiefe not to do anything.
And that's going to be a lightning storm kill. ManRay finding Weekend, and that's the one problem with the Morrigan. Going to find a nice route onto Metyankey, forcing him to jump under the safety of his own tier 1 tower. 5-on-4 power play for another 20 seconds as SoaR looks to push down this tier 1 mid tower.
A prime example of what happened to Weekend there was the fact that Allegiance didn't really have any tools to help him out. There was no tools left over after the meditation was used by PolarBearMike. Who is going to protect Weekend then? You're hoping for a leap out of CycloneSpin or a belch or a flop out of PolarBearMike. If they're on cooldown, that's all you got.
I didn't pay attention if Weekend's ultimate was available at that time, but he could have maybe looked to it to go into any other form.
Don't think it was. I don't think it was. I know Metyankey's was available, but do you really want to use it defensively? I guess he could have, but I don't think it would have been enough maybe.
It could have potentially looked to zone away ManRay from using his own Zeus ultimate to be able to confirm that kill. You're finding one big circle with another one, trying to create some Venn diagrams on the map, and at that point, who knows what would have happened. Weekend could have walked away, but either way, despite Weekend dying, SoaR don't really get anything off of it.
Well, surprisingly enough, if you didn't know, Homiefe is actually just a little bit ahead of experience over Weekend right now. I can't show you the graphs to prove that, but I did see that Homiefe hit level 11 just before Weekend did. So Homiefe has done a good job of, after dying 4 times, of catching up in terms of experience. Weekend's always been that character, though, that does fall behind to give the team his experience leads, totally.
And there's a difference between dying multiple times in the early game than dying once in the mid to late game. It's all about the respawn timers, and whenever Homiefe died, it was very relatively low. Like
he didn't lose anything either.
Level 3, level 5, level 6, 7, 8, whatever it was. It just the addition, like the total death time for Weekend, also at this stage of the game, whenever it basically denies you a whole wave and potentially a whole buff.
Well, CycloneSpin still has a 2-level lead over fineokay in this lane. It's not all doom and gloom for fineokay. He's not going to be pressured out of the lane anytime soon, but it does mean that when Cyclone hits level 20, he'll be a little bit more involved for his team. It gets that passive a bit quicker chance of getting online as well from Nike.
Looking at the mid lane, 3-on-2 here for SoaR. 4-on-2 as we see as well on the right-hand side, going for the speed buff, but not electing to really apply pressure, despite PBM only being paired up with Metyankey, electing to play it really safe, wanting to make sure that Homiefe, that was struggling behind earlier on, is going to have the mobility necessary to find some of these rotation plays.
It's going to be a moment of lull action, I feel. Unless somebody feels themselves like the Hunters in that duo lane there fighting a little bit too much, will force a rotation. With Gold Fury being down right now, no team is going to be really looking to fight unless they really want to contest Oracles that bad.
It could be the case that with everything being down, you want to be able to get the gold and the vision here. Jumping in the back line. Didn't find anybody.
Instead, he found a boar. Instead, he finds the Zeus damage as well. ManRay, though, ate a lot from Weekend. ManRay's still alive on the back. The Sun's dropped down. Yankee's going for the cleanup kill. Execute, but Weekend misses. Morrigan is dead, and ManRay will survive. Drum on the side of Allegiance, as now Oceans is in trouble too.
The stun is good from fineokay, finding the 3rd kill, and CycloneSpin has jumped in as well. His ultimate is still available to give him a little bit of a shield. He's going to pop it with the steroid, giving him a little bit of an extra boost there, but Gold Fury's not up for another minute and a half, and a nice 3 picks from SoaR. They were able to really take advantage of PBM there. And
it was a comedy of errors totally from Allegiance. That's what it was.
The idea and the mindset of PBM jumping in there is he wanted to bait out a lot of abilities onto himself to allow the rest of his team to clean up, but Weekend missing that Thanatos ult really hurt the rest of his team.
Mike missing the flop into Weaken missing the Thanatos ult, and that was all she wrote there. The Fields of Love was good from Oceans. Metyankey went for the cleanup kill, and ManRay and didn't find it too. If he would have dropped those Suns potentially on the whole team fight, could have spelled different as well. It was a comedy of errors from Allegiance though, and SoaR punished them for it.
You have to be very mindful about the positioning of your ultimates as well. Metyankey has been a little bit hesitant, I would say, instead of using all-in, because there's pros and cons towards every encounter, right?
Yes.
And you always don't want to be able to dump everything onto one person. Now, clearly, SoaR did that onto PBM and found the kill, but more importantly not, Vetium used his own ultimate, but the difference between his ultimate versus Metyankey's is that board's going into multiple different directions and zigzagging all over the place, whereas Metyankey will control one specific area.
Now, don't deny anything though that Allegiance still do have a small lead in this game in terms of gold. Their experience levels, they're in a strong enough position, mainly due to CycloneSpin on this left-hand side, having a 2-level lead still over fineokay. The mid lane is still even, the jungle is still even, but Vetium on an Artemis. Artemis is one of the truest forms of hyper carries we have in this game, totally.
Yes, this is one of the oldest traditional gods in all of Smite. Having that Terra giving her so much more attack speed. I think it's something along the lines of 75% in the laking, which allows her to kind of avoid some of these attack speed items and go into more of the crit and the penetration, considering the fact that it synergizes more with her passive, giving her 5% crit chance every single attack up to 3 stacks.
And with this as well, SoaR looking to eye up the Gold Fury a little bit. I don't think SoaR want to be the engagers. They're happy to kind of let Allegiance continue killing themselves, is the best way of putting it. Let them do the engagement, and then their counter engage is very, very strong. Zeus ultimate, Thanatos ultimate, Artemis, Boar as well. Tusky, such a big impact in these team fights.
This is a similar story for Allegiance in the last game, where SoaR was the one initiating and it was Allegiance making the counter engages, but this time around SoaR is getting the better end of it, or for the time being at least.
For the timing at least, yes, that's true. So 18 minutes in, no, 7-6. Multiple members of SoaR all grouped to the Gold Fury. Back coming out from PolarBearMike here. I don't think he can afford to do that. I think Allegiance recognize that too. They may be forcing this SoaR to make Allegiance go aggressive to defend the Gold Fury. They don't want to drop it too low because the combination of AoE abilities from Allegiance is very strong. Jigz eats a bit of poke in the front, but it is still a Fafnir. Did not want that stun to hit you though. That wasn't a plan.
Oceans took a lot of damage from that depth side. Jumping in is CycloneSpin. The steal has not been used though. Jigz diving in the backline, doing a great job zoning with the dragon, but he took too much damage.
He will leap away back to the safety of his team. Is still alive. Homiefe on the right will pick up Weaken before Weaken can do anything else from that. The Thunder is doing so much work out of ManRay to zone Allegiance back. Jigz, however, is still running from CycloneSpin. CycloneSpin gives up the goose on the left-hand side. Makes it a 1-for-1. The Gold Fury dropped down, and that was awkward if I've ever seen it.
No, definitely not a good spot though. SoaR does secure the Gold Fury, walking into it though, with Weaken being dead for 15, Homiefe for 25. PBM is a little low here. Allegiance grouped up to the left-hand side with fineokay and ManRay here. They can clean up.
They made about Oceans more than anybody else, but fineokay drops the heal defensively for Jigz to sustain back up, which allows Allegiance to walk away. Communication there from SoaR was not the greatest, and you can warrant that with not having a full roster and new members to the team. But it's dropped kills.
So unfortunate that the wave was there during the chain lightning off of the shield from ManRay. Could have definitely spilled a lot of damage follow-up here. Vetium trying to get off a little bit of poke onto CycloneSpin. CycloneSpin is not really too worried here with having that HP 5, the physical defense. This is more of a damage check for CycloneSpin.
That's what I was going to say,
more than anything else.
Not only a damage check for CycloneSpin against Vetium, but Vetium versus CycloneSpin. It lets Cyclone know how much absorption of Vetium's auto-attack damage he can take at the moment based off his build. I think we're going to see Nemean next. He's got Breastplate of Valor already, and more than likely Nemean will be next so we can continue to be a disruption to Vetium in the backline.
Especially with the Thorns here for CycloneSpin. This is something that he's been doing before in the past, Season 1 and 2, and then when that was a very in-meta style pick here.
I'm just surprised we've not seen him pull out Cousin Bow yet. I'm expecting to see CycloneSpin be the first one to go Cousin Bow with Thorns and Nemean Lion. I'm expecting that one day. He'll do it. He'll be the first pro to do it, I expect.
Maybe.
Unless he's weakened in the jungle.
That would be something.
That wouldn't surprise me either.
That would not. Yeah, these two players between Weaken and CycloneSpin have definitely been very experimental, I would say, compared to relatively most other players in this build. That's not to say that others won't try it, at least in scrims, but these two specifically will always force it because the fact that a lot of teams and players aren't used to playing against these new gods.
Now, I do like the switch up that's happened with Allegiance a little bit here. You can see that they've sent Weaken to the right-hand side to get some solo farm. CycloneSpin is already level 19, so allowing Weaken to get a little bit of experience from the jungle position, get some free farm, will help him out a little bit more.
Trying to get a level 20 mage is not a bad idea here if you're Weaken, and that's something that CycloneSpin and Weaken do very well. They know how to share some of this experience pool. They've been playing together for so long back in the beginning of Season 2 during their AFK days.
Very, very quiet right now has Jigz been this game. I say that, but he is James Bond right now. 007 in this game with his performance so far. He's not been spoken about much, Tolly, but he has been making a major impact.
Fafnir has been one of these guys that you're trying to control a lot of space when you go into that dragon form, and he's been hitting a lot of decent stunts here that can set up Homiefe's death sight. We saw it actually earlier on in the left-hand side of the Gulf here where the stun was applied onto Oceans and death sight was used. Oceans had to disengage with the dash backwards using the hearts just to make sure he didn't have to back into base.
I'm more a little bit worried about when he starts to use the coerce late game onto the likes of Vetium or onto the likes of ManRay. When they're playing this Artemis and this Zeus, the damage potential goes through the roof from those carries. Don't forget, it really synergizes well with an Artemis who's a steroid for her as well.
CycloneSpin trying to do a little bit of poke. He couldn't find Vetium, found Jigz, but he takes a little bit more poke than he would have liked instead. Death Sight off the mark. Silence doing a little bit here, but it's only SoaR trying to go for the vision control instead.
Cyclone too far forward for a second here, pops the thorns and forces Vetium to stop attacking him. The rest of his team on the back, though, not really up to much. They were looking for a cheeky portal demon. Bit of a waste there from Cyclone in the end.
One ultimate being used by CycloneSpin. That's only it out of all these 10 players. So SoaR going to start up the gold or the portal demon right away.
In from PolarBearMike and the bombs rain down from Metyankey. Portal demon taken by Allegiance. Jigz in a world of run, but the execute from Homiefe picks up one. Jigz will be able to get away as Weaken. What's he doing on the left-hand side? Drop to Zeus ultimate to help secure. Now wraps round looking for a kill. Gets one on ManRay. Disengages as well. Giving chase is fine okay though. With Homiefe in, so they'll get Metyankey.
The blink was good. Homiefe is going in though. He found one onto Metyankey. Weaken is so low. Jumping in his Jigz. Not able to find the stun, but CycloneSpin is so tanky. He's able to dive the backline for so long. 2 for 1 in the long run, favoring SoaR. And the portal demon though was taken by Allegiance.
Yeah, it was taken by Allegiance, and that was the big key there. Evens the gold up a little bit more between these two teams. But that was more down to how long you can stay in a fight for from both teams, because they both played it to its limit. You saw Oceans and Vetium both ended up having to disengage from that. There is a Nemean line involved in this again, and there's an ult again from Cyclone. Vetium has bitten off too much more than he can chew, and I think Vetium's dead.
He's trying to lifesteal as long as he possibly can, but it can't be onto CycloneSpin. There's 3 members from Allegiance here. Vetium has nowhere to go except back to base, respawning in about 50 seconds at the 23-minute mark. This is not something that's going to be very positive for SoaR's fire gen could be looked at.
Well, not only did they get the carry that was Artemis, but the tier 1 tower as well. Gold Fury is warded up by SoaR right now. Allegiance don't have any wards actually at either the Gold Fury or the Fire Giant, which makes it very difficult for them to take one of these uncontested. But they could try and split the difference here. 2 Hunters won't take long here, Tolly.
No, not at all. And nobody's in position from SoaR to really capitalize on this one. Gold Fury instantly dropping down. Not an issue at all.
And now the red buff could be contested by PolarBearMike, knowing he's got 2 Hunters in tow. Only recognizes Homiefe and fineokay here, and PolarBearMike just pressuring enough on his own, releases that and gets a red buff for Oceans.
SoaR doing a good job though, staying not too far behind. Allegiance are controlling the pace of the game at this later stages because of CycloneSpin's tankiness. Now having the hide of the mean lion with this thorns is not making it very easy for Vetium at all.
Surprised we didn't see Allegiance go a little bit more aggressive there. They were 4 on 5 and they had double Hunters to pressure in a very big minion wave there, but they respected the damage and the wave clear potential from ManRay and fineokay, that they were just happy to take the Gold Fury, the win on the right hand side of the tier 1, and fall back to their own half of the map.
Slow and steady game here for Allegiance, not wanting to press on a bit a little too hard, wanting to look for more power spike items. Only 4 items completed here on both of these Hunters, and considering that how much damage they just did to that Gold Fury, once these 5th items get completed, it's going to be that much easier to really start melting these Guardian frontliners.
Just keep an eye on Vetium, because that crit is now coming online as well. More than likely, I'm expecting to expect Wind Demon or Poison Star, I guess, here. Because Poison Star reduces damage done. The crit isn't as big, but you've got Artemis anyway, so you do less damage. Or do you want the extra mobility and attack speed on Artemis already?
Well, as you asked me that question, Wind Demon has been completed by Vetium.
I did that on purpose. I did that on purpose because you could always answer correctly then.
That's true.
Think about it, because me hesitating that long and saying all that stuff, it means you get it right.
I would have, if he was to go for Poison Star, the only person that would be on him would be CycloneSpin for so long. But even if you're going to attack him to slow him down, you're still going to be eating those Height of Nemean Lion shots, those Thorn shots. That's going to be doing a lot of damage to you. So you might as well just be getting a little bit of a boosted movement speed, especially if you can manage to stunt out CycloneSpin. That's the important part. Keeping in place. Once he jumps in, you have to use your Boar, look for the trap to cripple him in place, and then just get out of danger.
Now, I do like the Devourer's Gauntlet start from Vetium as well. Not necessarily star, because he sold his star item at the beginning, but the Devourer's Gauntlets here, this is how you deal with Thorns and Nemean Lion. When you are absorbing damage back, you need to lifesteal totally to stay in the fight a little bit more, and that's what it's providing by going for this.
Nice double jump here, using the Boar right away, but Homiefe took a lot of damage. He has to go use that hovering depth defensively, but Metyankey did a lot of damage, and that's going to be an execute.
That ball from Vetium did so much work, it ping-pong round. However, SoaR are having to back away right now. Even though they found a pick, they invested a lot into it. ManRay still has his ultimate available. Jigz is about to end. Weaken nearly gets caught in an awkward spot, but he rope-a-dopes them the wrong way. Breaks a couple of ankles there, and allows Allegiance to disengage.
Weaken's very comfortable playing gods such as Loki and Ao Kwang, so this is a very similar story where he's playing the Morrigan. He's basically juking, weaving, dodging all the Ds that you can ever want for a Morrigan player to be able to get out of that one.
All the Ds.
All the Ds for the Morrigan.
You had to say all the Ds. Portal Demon is about to spawn though, so SoaR with this power play of losing Metyankey up against Allegiance, they can start to try and bring this one down. Allegiance are very healthy here, have 2 ultimates still available, PolarBearMikes and Oceans respectively, to be able to contest still. fineokay, a little bit far forward. You can't really flop to get a knock up on him. Oh, but they did get ManRay's ult for that. That was big.
That is definitely huge, and CycloneSpin trying to dive the backline onto Homiefe, but too fast is the Thanatos with that Heartseeker, Shield of Regrowth, and the speed buff.
That drop of the Zeus ult there, totally, that was awkward. That's not something you want to see, but the nerves can get to you sometimes.
It's not necessarily the nerves, it's just like sometimes you're trying to make sure that you don't hesitate on certain plays, and we saw Metyankey hold on to his ultimate on the stuns for a little bit too long, but ManRay electing to use his ultimate a little bit too quickly there, the last one.
Taken by Allegiance, and it's a tricky little play. fineokay though, catches 2 in an awkward alleyway. Homiefe's in the sky, PolarBearMike's in trouble. PolarBearMike is dead. The crits from Vetium did most of the work there, even though the damage was floating through. Ricochet from Metyankey did not hit onto Homiefe there, so it's a 1-for-0 exchange. PolarBearMike's life for that of the Portal Demon.
Homiefe was so patient with that hovering death, electing to wait to see if that Bacchus player was going to get out of danger. Ocean's taking a lot of damage, forced into the Aegis. CycloneSpin diving the backline, using his ultimate around the Portal Demon. Vetium is taking a lot of poke from behind. Weaken's right there.
But Weaken gets collapsed on by the whole team. Aegis is in place to stay alive for a moment. Turns into Zeus, but ManRay will turn around and say there is only one true god, and that is me. And Morrigan will take a trip back to the base again. 2 members of Allegiance dead.
And not having the ultimate from CycloneSpin, he's not able to really dive as much as he would have wanted. PBM has revived, takes the portal back into the Fire Giant action. It's going to still look at this as SoaR starts it up. It's at about 75%
but look at
health.
Jigz coercing Vetium to continue to heal him up. The meditation comes into play as well from fineokay. fineokay on zone duty, going to push back Allegiance one more time. The rest of SoaR do collapse a little bit more, keeping the Fire Giant healthy for now. He's getting very low. Once ManRay's ult was up, ManRay drops it, and immediately the Fire Giant goes the way of SoaR. In the skies, Homiefe looking to come down.
Waiting for that execute, he finds it onto CycloneSpin. PBM has to jump away, as well as Metyankey's stun from PBM, trying to zone away the rest of SoaR, but with Fire Giant on all 5 members of SoaR, they're going to start looking to push down this right-hand side.
Totally. This has been the tale of 2 junglers that got focused in the early game, went negative early on, 0-4, 0-3, and yet they made such big impacts as the game went on in those particular sets. Weaken last game, he was behind massively, but still turned up big to get him the win. And now Homiefe, 6-5-6. He's been very instrumental now as this game went on, and he was 0-3-0 at a certain point in time.
Yeah, he even had 4 deaths before he found his first kill. So this is a great turnaround play by him. A lot of his teammates have definitely helped him out there. Not to mention Allegiance was a little bit too ambitious in some of their engages. It was the tale that you told earlier on here, Hinderman. It was where Allegiance, the first game, was waiting for SoaR to kind of botch the engagements, and this time around, Allegiance had been botching their own, and SoaR had been capitalizing beautifully. Now up 14-9 here with the Fire Giant in a good spot here for another 2.5 minutes with that late game buff.
And now they can just sit back for a moment here, SoaR clean up the buffs in their own jungle, push out these lanes. The Fire Giant's going to be on for a nice little time here. It's an easy tier 1 on the left-hand side. I'm not sure whether we'll see Allegiance look to defend tier 2s, Tully. What do you think?
At this point, they're not too far behind gold-wise to be able to stop themselves from defending this tier 2. The problem is how they're going to engage it positionally around these team fights in the lane here. They don't have to worry about SoaR too much here because they can easily disengage from a Zeus ultimate.
And it looks like they may see a setup for a tier 2 defense out of Allegiance now. All groups on this left-hand side expect Weekend to be the one floating in the jungle, just like Homiefe is now on the Thanatos. Overall, we'll just see how they play this one out because Allegiance may not have to go aggressive to be defensive.
That Chain Lightning, though, doing a lot of work, stunning out CycloneSpin. He's forced to jump in, though. He uses the ultimate, but the shield is dropping really quickly. Zeus ultimate is being used to zone out.
Who do they want? They wanted Weekend, but Weekend's away from it. CycloneSpin, who's ultimately dead. The meditation wasn't enough for PolarBearMike. Homiefe picks up Weekend. This is a clean-up crew, boys, and aisle left. Metyankey's the last one alive, and he may not live for long.
Just like this, it's the exact mirror opposite. Last game, it was Vetium that was the last person to defend the Titan. This time, it's Metyankey. The only problem is this is a mid laner playing a Hunter.
And that could be the game, and it will be the game. SoaR and Allegiance are going to split this set.
This is amazing because only 1 point separates these two teams.
It still does.
They were, what was it, 4-3, so now they're 5-4, but the only difference is next week, SoaR has 2 sets.
That's true.
Allegiance only have 1.
That's true. Fantastic performance from both those two teams there overall. SoaR fighting back into it with a new rookie member in the solo lane, a fineokay, and then obviously ManRay in the mid, and you can't say ManRay did bad things in either of those games. He had a fantastic set today.
Despite the loss in the first game, he still had great plays with the Scylla, doing a good job with the Zeus as well in the second game.
Absolutely crazy set to watch. And we'll see how this goes on as time goes on. Because there's only 2 sets today, Tolly. There's still more sets to come.
Absolutely, and I can't wait to see some of these new sets, but I'm sure that some other people will have some other things to say about this one.
And those 2 people are TNT, Tom and Taco. Take it away.
Fantastic set we just saw right there, just splitting it right down the middle. ALG comes out on top in some of the games that matter, and this time around, Metyankey looking perhaps the strongest he has all season.
He seemed a lot more comfortable this time around, even though it was a split between these two teams. You have to consider that his past performances have been a little bit lackluster, but today he really got a chance to display himself and show off really the mechanical prowess that he does actually possess.
How much of that was actually picking the Ho-Yi in the mid lane?
Probably partially going back to his roots, a little bit of nostalgia pick coming through with that Hu-Yi. I mean, as a Hunter main, even when you transition out of the role, you still are able to pick that same kind of God and just like really roll with it. And I mean, it was great at the start, but then I think that came to actually be their downfall ultimately, considering that they were lacking a bit of that mage damage.
Yeah, I just didn't have it all over the place. We saw some creativity as well. Morrigan came out in the jungle, but it wasn't on the creative player. CycloneSpin is usually the one trying to bring out some of the new, but instead he's bringing out the old. Here he is on the Broken God. Osiris has seen a lot of play lately, and Cyclone absolutely did him justice.
Cyclone was a very impactful force for ALG and a large reason behind ALG's first victory, in that he was able to secure the kills pretty effectively and just be ultimately a giant chaotic force as this Osiris just all over ManRay the majority of the time until they were ultimately able to secure the victory.
Just a big pain in the side of everybody that was against him. Here you can see the stats from game number 1. And right away, the stat that's going to point itself out to me is obviously the structure damage. SoaR not only couldn't really find anything going during the middle of the game, but actually couldn't even translate that to any real map pressure. ALG took out all of the structures, and SoaR, like I said, they struggled to even find a handful.
Which is interesting because at the start of that game, it was actually SoaR who was up 5-1, and ALG was on the back foot, but then SoaR just never really pressured the lead that they sort of started to maintain or acquire, and then once that began to happen, ALG just backed off, and SoaR were kind of just content to let that passive gameplay go through until eventually ALG's draft just overcame.
That was for game number 1, but in game number 2 is certainly a different feel. And a lot of that, honestly, comes from the facilitation of players like Jigz. Homiefe obviously went off on a tear on the Thanatos, as you would expect, but Jigz on this Fafnir really allowed his team to walk through the doors that he found himself opening.
And Fafnir is really a Guardian who's been making a huge impact in a lot of these SPL games recently, and he seems to be back to a top pick and favorite among a lot of these contending teams. And I think a large reason behind that is just he provides so much in his kit between the damage that he's able to provide and just the overall hard CC, even though it's narrow at the same time. If you secure it, I mean, that's generally a kill majority of the time, and he has an excellent peel escape for himself.
He's very similar to Bacchus in the regard that he brings a lot of damage, but when you select Bacchus, you lose some of that peel. All you really have is initiation. And here with the Fafnir, like you said, he just brings a lot of different, he's a multifaceted character in a world where characters generally choose one thing to do correctly, and that's pretty much it. SoaR's there, even though their mid laner wasn't. They win the game above ALG in game number 2. Again, a lopsided match. 2k structure damage as opposed to 8.5. So big damage coming out from the guys on SoaR Gaming. And again, really talking about that Fafnir pick, I think it has to do with the level of skill here. When you're playing with a unit like these teams are at the top of the SPL, I think Fafnir is easier to make an impact with because you're able to really set up when you want to make that impact. Like we said, though, Jigz was just part of the win. Homiefe looked absolutely fantastic in the jungle on that Thanatos, and that's why we're going to talk to him. It's a jungler. Homie, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. It was a pleasure to watch you play that game, and at least the one that you won. You wind up splitting down here. How do you guys on SoaR feel about how your season's been going so far?
Well, the split so far has been really unfortunate. Like, our first 2 games were against really tough teams, then we had to forfeit versus United, and now like we have to play with this for our next 2 games. So overall it's gone okay, I guess, but it's just pretty unfortunate.
So with that unfortunate situation in mind, like you said, Andy's out for personal reasons this week, so you're not playing with him, and then you had the Unite. Assuming there was no speed bumps and just you guys actually got to play Smite, where do you think SoaR would lie as far as the standings are concerned?
I definitely think we'd be top 4, I'd say.
And so with the remaining games, you guys pulled out a lot here. How do you expect it to perform as the split goes on?
I mean, we're just gonna keep on getting better and better. I think like once we get Andy back as well for the LAN, we'll be really prepared.
So you guys are trying to place a lot of emphasis into this LAN, but as somebody, how are you guys feeling about your latest solo laner acquirement with fineokay now representing the team?
fineokay has been a really good fit for us because all of us are really kind of quiet, but fineokay talks a lot, and that's what we really needed from a solo laner.
That's excellent, and like you said, it sounds like it's gonna go ahead and fit in there. So is he as far as the culture is concerned, it sounds like he's fitting, but how about his gameplay? I mean, fineokay is a relatively inexperienced player, and you guys are SPL vets at this point. Was that a topic of conversation, or is he just good enough to seamlessly fit in with you guys?
At first, I was kind of skeptical about having a Challenger Cup player be our solo laner, but after like a few scrims, I already noticed that he's really good and he can hold his own against SPL solo laners.
Do you think that there's a lot of players out there like fineokay that are playing in the Challenger Cup simply because they haven't had another shot, but secretly could really contend with SPL? Or do you think fineokay is the diamond in the rough that you guys were lucky enough to find?
I think there are definitely other players like fineokay, but you need the right teammates to surround those players. Like, if you have players like Andy and Jigz who have been playing for a while, like they'll guide those players and make them top tier players.
Absolutely. That's pretty much what I was thinking. I think that your unique setup there with SoaR, you have a couple of veterans, a couple of quiet guys, and some players ready to step up, I think is going to be a good look. As far as everything else is concerned, though, you guys look like you're going to be headed up in the right direction. You obviously performed very well today individually and as a unit. Congratulations on that. Is there anything you'd like to say to the fans at home before we let you go?
Shout outs to SoaR Gaming, our sponsor, and shout outs to ManRay for subbing in for us.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That's Homiefe the Jungle for SoaR Gaming. Like he said, ManRay subbed in. Andy won't be available for the remainder of the week either. Personal obligations, so ManRay will be the substitute of choice for this team. And honestly, he looked pretty all right there. I have no complaints about what ManRay brought to the squad. And if you have any complaints about what the commentators bring to the desk, well, now's your chance to see if you can one-up us. Caster, thecaster.tv, excuse me. And you can film yourself in 1 minute giving the spiel on why you think that you can be one of the commentators here or elsewhere. Of course, on the line for this is a trip down to Atlanta, Georgia. That's here. And 10 grand also. That's kind of a big deal. Me and Taco were talking about signing up ourselves.
You can't ever really go wrong with the 10K prize on the line.
I mean, you really just can't. However, if you send us a video with a ghost in it, I am just going to delete it. I don't mess with ghosts. I don't like ghosts. This is a non-haunted publication.
That really messed with you. That video, F-Dot was watching this ghost video for a solid, like, 20, 30 minutes, and he just couldn't stop freaking out about it.
I can't deal with it. I'm still freaking out, but I hope that these next two matches are going to be just as exciting with or without ghosts. We've got Flashpoint versus Enemy, and then Luminosity versus In Memory of Gabe. Of course, Enemy is now known as E United. We'll be bringing those two matches to you in just a moment. Stay tuned to hi-rez TV.